Hello and welcome to PolyInnovator. I'm Dustin Miller, PolyInnovator, and this is your channel for self-education, innovation, and just making a change in your life. So I wanted to talk about progression on the daily today. And this is kind of a topic I've been keeping in the backlog for a while, but it's one of those things that I've always thought about. And so what I find really interesting about it is that a lot of people just think, oh, I need to be doing something productive today. But what is productive really? What does it mean? It means you want to be doing something towards a goal. That's what you usually want. You want to eat the frog in the morning so you can get things done and try to make sure you actually get that challenge you need to get done that day. A lot of people don't break it down in that way. I would even argue most people don't break it down that way. They don't break it down to the atomic level habits, if you will. And so the idea that I wanted to share today is that you are capable of finding your own new frog, your own new challenge itself in order to progress farther forward. Everyone's heard of the eat the frog idea where you just get the biggest challenge done out of the way. Well, today I literally woke up and I kind of did that, but I also kind of didn't. And so let me explain. I actually woke up way later than I should have. Like I usually wake up at 8. I woke up at around 10. 10 o'clock is my main hour during the day, and that is not a very productive thing to do, right? But I was tired. I even felt still tired even when I woke up, which means I'm probably not getting enough sleep last night. And so it makes me think, okay, I need to optimize my sleep schedule more. I digress. The idea that I'm getting up right away, getting some coffee in me, and going straight into this video is kind of like eating a frog. But to me, recording a video isn't necessarily that hard to do. I like looking at the camera. I like gesturing with my hands. These kind of things come naturally to me, whereas other people might find it really hard. And I'm not bragging or anything like that. I'm just saying like, hey, this challenge isn't that high for me, and who knows, I may end up skipping the editing and then just doing it the next day, but at least I'm getting the challenge of recording done first. So that's kind of the eat the frog idea. But the first point I want you to focus on, and what's really gotten me going a lot more over this year than eating the frog ever has, and that is focusing on the small ideas, right? The small little wins, the small little things you can do that all add up. So something they talk about too in Atomic Habits and some other books is like just doing the things, right? If you pass the vacuum cleaner and you know you need a vacuum, then go ahead and just go and vacuum. So one thing I like to do is like when I'm in the pantry where I keep my vacuum cleaner, I take it out and I put it against the wall. And so that way, whenever I do need to get around to doing it, it's already right there. Last night, I prepared some of my coffee ahead of time. So the things I do with the chocolate syrup and milk to make it more like a mocha, I prepared that ahead of time. So that way, when I got up this morning, I literally just poured it in, mixed it with some milk, mixed a little more coffee in, and boom, I had it ready to go. Speaking of which, let's take a coffee break. And yes, it's a beer stein. So what I want to mention is that when you do these small little ideas over time, when you start adding up those little details, that's when you start actually making progress. And so there was one thing I mentioned before in like an old episode on this channel, but back in like 2016 or so, 2015, I was sitting there thinking, I want to do all these different things, Duolingo, exercise, meditation, read, listen to books and podcasts. And I'm just thinking in my head, take courses too, thinking in my head, oh my God, how am I going to schedule all that in one day? How do I time block that? How do I do it? I still don't do it. I still don't time block it. But here's the deal. I get through most of that every week more than most people because I've scheduled that into my life. I've created systems around them. I don't have to time block doing each of those things. I finished a 22-hour book in less than a month when it came to just listening to it at a higher speed, but I listen to it constantly. I go for walks. I go to the gym to get my exercise in. I make sure I get my books. Well, I'm not reading as much as I should be, so that's one thing I'm working on. But I can start that habit once again because it's a system in place. And those are small little wins that you add up every day. That's how I finished that book. That's how I've been finishing podcasts. That's how I finished the Watch Later playlist on my YouTube. Many of you who've seen my Now page updates have heard me talk about it a lot. In about February, I had 750 videos on my Watch Later playlist. I managed to get that down to 0 a couple weeks ago. And it was a matter of just getting a little bit every day, watching them, deleting them, moving them, or watching them turning into a blog post as well. Second challenge, right? The second point. Aim for 1 to 4% improvement challenge, right? I kind of put improvement and challenge together, even though these two ratios are a little bit different. If you want to improve, all you need to do is get 1% better every day. And you'll end up getting about like 32, 37% better each year. It's not 365, it says it's about like 36. But that's still a significant improvement. That's a third more than what you were before. And on top of that too, during that time, you're spending a lot of time working on things that are actually going to add up. So not only are you improving, but your output's improving as well. And then the challenge aspect. This chair won't stop creaking. The challenge aspect is what's really interesting, right? I've been sitting here listening to Wilson Melancelli or Stephen Kotler talk about flow for a while, and I've been really into flow myself. And one of the things that's really important to get into the state of flow is the level idea of challenge, right? How challenging is it for you to do this tasks? If you are anxious and you're like, if it's way up here where the challenge is way too high, then you're going to get anxious. It's not going to work, right? If the challenge is way down here, you're going to end up getting bored and not want to do anything. You got to find that middle zone where the challenge is high, but your skill level actually can match. It may be hard, but you can match. And that's what gets you into the state of flow and allowing for that equilibrium of challenge and anxiety. However, you have to aim for that. And so the second point is to aim for that 1 to 4%, getting that gradual growth and or challenge into flow. So that's why I say 1 to 4, because if you have that 1%, at least then you're making progress, right? But if you have that 4% challenge, then you might be able to get into flow, which isn't as common as many people think, but it is in everybody. So it's common in that regard, but it's not common for people to get into because they don't optimize themselves. You have to actively optimize yourself to get into it. Bonus tip. Do not let a day go by without you making progress in some shape or form. Even if you think it's not as important, like my watch later playlist, for example, wasn't that important, over time, it'll become more important and the things you're doing will add up. Anytime you're consuming content, people might think, oh, I'm learning, I'm not doing anything with it. Sure, there's a point of extreme autodidactism where you're wasting time just learning, not doing anything with it. I've certainly been in that case. And a lot of polymathic people have been there too. But the thing is, what you are learning can eventually still be used. Sure, if you wait too long, like many years after learning it, you're going to have to relearn it. If I try to go attempt to learn calculus again, I'm going to have to relearn it. But it's going to be faster. Kind of like the muscles. The muscles start developing their new cells and nuclei in the cells, allowing for the muscles to develop more, get more shape, get more form, get more actual cells there. As you lose those cells over time, creating this dissonance of like where you got to is a high level and then down to like losing the muscle mass. The muscles are still going to remember where they were at their peak. And so you can train them back up to that point, allowing yourself to get stronger again. And so if you go day by day doing something, you're going to end up boosting yourself in some way, shape, or form, learning, maybe creating something. Doesn't matter if it's input or output, as long as you're doing something. Your body's going to remember, your brain's going to remember what you did on that day. You may not remember exactly the little details of it, but over time, it's going to be easier to get back into what you learned. It's going to be easier to get back into what you're creating, even if you stop creating something. One of my posts that I made, one of my mega posts, I stopped working on it for like 2 weeks, went back into it. I primed myself by watching the movie or some videos on the movie again, because I think it was a Comic Panda post. And I managed to get myself back into that priming of how I was writing it in the original state weeks later. It's a matter of just getting yourself right back in that same mindset. So in conclusion, it all compounds, right? It all interleaves. It all shows its worth in the end. And so I've kind of been saying the same points over and over again. Just do the small things each day. You don't even have to eat the frog, right? I'm trying to today because I really want to get this video going. And in my head, I was like, oh, maybe I should just be lazy and write a blog post instead, because blog post is a higher skill level for me than videos, right? I was like, no. You put PolyInnovator on there for a reason on my database that I keep track of this all, because in your head, you knew that this will be better for a video for people to see and consume in that medium. And so that's what I did. Even though it's a little bit harder for me, even though it's a little bit more of a challenge, I'm in here doing it. So my point is, though, I want you to keep getting that 1% better every day and just continuously making progress, aiming for flow, aiming for eating the frog, right? Flow and eating the frog, they're kind of like the bigger parts of this. You don't want to ignore them. You don't want to actively go towards them too. Like, you just want to make sure you're actually doing something, because you don't want to burn out, but you also want to make sure you don't get too lazy either. I hope this video has been helpful. I just wanted to talk about some topics that we don't always talk about very much. Cheers. Thank you.